As I thought about why I am choosing throughout my life to be United Methodist, the thing that I've thought about so often is a line from the 16th Psalm. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. I have a goodly heritage. Now, I've never really cared for the word pleasant places because it hadn't always been pleasant in my journey as a United Methodist. So what I've come to think about is the boundary lines have fallen for me in nurturing places throughout my life. And it began when I was growing up in Big Spring, Texas, and when I was in the 8th grade, a man came to our church who became my pastor, my father in the ministry, my mentor throughout life, and his name is Jordan Grooms. And I want to show his picture. This was in my office, and he was wearing my alb that Sunday, or that day, because I was in the wedding. Jordan has guided me throughout my life at times when I most needed reinforcement as a United Methodist. There was a time right out of seminary when I was appointed to a church. In fact, it was my second church, right out of seminary. The years were 1966 to 70 when I was in that church. And during that era, the church, as well as our nation, were going through a time very similar to what we are now. There was a lot of terrible unrest, the civil rights era, the Vietnam War, the moratoriums protesting the war, and also during that time, we became United Methodist. For up till that time, we were the Methodist Church. But in 1968, there was a uniting conference when the Evangelical Brethren and the Methodist Church merged at a general conference held in Dallas, Texas. We became the United Methodist Church. That evoked a lot of changes in the church life. We received a new hymnal, and there were a lot of changes dealing with our literature and all kinds of changes. That a lot of unrest started occurring within the church itself at that time. I was so discouraged during that era that I gave serious thought to leaving the Methodist Church, the United Methodist Church. I still had to grow a lot from that moment. I had to take a look at how I was doing ministry, and one of the things that I discovered about myself that I had to address was I was a people pleaser. I thought if I reason with people and try to help them understand, I can work out these conflicts. So I was avoiding conflict and trying to be nice to everybody. Well, that was not healthy for me, and I finally just realized I need to get some help. And so I started going through psychotherapy with a psychologist. I was with him every Thursday for 9 months, and he helped me realize one of his phrases to me was, "Bobby, you cannot be rational with irrational people." And I thought reason could win over anybody if you just sat down and talk it out. Well, from that year in that church, and that was here in Lubbock at a church that I was pastor, it was up the street from here, Agape. I pay tribute to that church because there, I use these words, they grew me up. I moved from an adolescent pastor to a more adult pastor and from then on, I think my ministry grew even more. So that's part of that goodly heritage. Jordan happened to come to see me during that time, and during his visit, I told him, I said, "Jordan, I think I'm going to leave the Methodist Church. I can't," and I told him my struggle, what I was feeling, and particularly regarding worship and also my commitment to social justice in the church. And Jordan looked at me and he said, "Bobby, I understand that. I can understand why you're thinking that. But let me tell you something. I've discovered through the years, I am free to be all of the things that you're wanting to be within the Methodist Church. Great liturgy, great worship. You can take your stands. You have a freedom here. to be authentically who you are. And as I listened to him, I started taking a second look, and I made a choice then that I would not leave the Methodist Church, that I would stay with it. And all through the years, I have discovered the truth that Jordan taught me. Be authentically who you are. Why am I United Methodist? I have a goodly heritage. We all do. A heritage that's rich in everything possible about beauty, music, liturgy, and the heritage of standing firm for social justice, reaching out to the oppressed, the outcast, the marginalized, and saying, as we here at St. John's do, all are welcome.